Usually when you order something fragile online, like a hand-thrown mug or, I don't know, a delicate bowl, the arrival is basically a battle.
Oh, absolutely. It's a whole ordeal.
Right. You are, hacking through layers of corrugated cardboard, peeling off that industrial strength tape that just seems to fuse with the box. And then you're hit with that inevitable avalanche of biodegradable packing peanuts.
Yeah, and the whole time, that packaging is just trash. I mean, it's purely utilitarian.
Exactly. It's a physical barrier standing between you and the thing you actually want to hold.
It functions solely as an obstacle, designed to survive the brutal automated logistics of global transit. And once it does its job, well, its existence is entirely meaningless.
But, and this is why we're doing this deep dive today, looking through our sources on traditional Japanese pottery, you see a completely flipped dynamic.
Oh, it's night and day.
Yeah. We're looking at a world where the packaging isn't just trash standing in your way. The packaging is actually, well, is half the treasure. It is profound. It is spiritual. And structurally, it is absolute genius.
That treasure aspect, it really stems from a specific cultural philosophy called tsutsumi, which translates roughly to wrapping or concealing.
Tsutsumi.
Right. It is the complete opposite of a disposable afterthought. Tsutsumi actually turns the act of unboxing into a meditative preparation.
Because you're intentionally concealing the art.
Exactly. By concealing it in beautiful, natural materials, you are signaling to the recipient that the object inside holds immense value. You're basically creating a forced transition, a moment of mindfulness before the viewer actually encounters the artwork.
It slows you down.
It demands that you slow down. And the practice is heavily tied to wabi-sabi aesthetics.
Right, the appreciation of natural materials that age with dignity over time.
Yes. We are talking about raw wood, woven cotton, and silk, rather than, slick plastics or bleached cardboard.
And the primary vessel for this entire experience, according to the botanical and historical texts here, is the wooden box itself, which is known as the Kiribako. And kiri refers to paulownia wood, right?
Yes, the paulownia tree. And it holds a very special place in Japanese culture. Historically, it was actually known as the princess tree.
Oh, right, because the dowry tradition.
Exactly. There was this long-standing custom where a family would plant a paulownia sapling when a baby girl was born.
That's such a beautiful idea.
It really is. By the time she was of marrying age, the tree would have matured enough to be harvested, and then the wood was used to craft a custom dresser for her wedding dowry.
Wow. But looking at the botanical specs of this wood in our sources, it wasn't just chosen for sentimental reasons. I mean, the wood itself is practically engineered for this.
Oh, it has absolute superpowers when it comes to preservation.
Yeah, it's incredibly lightweight but dimensionally stable. So the cellular structure resists warping over time. It's highly fire retardant. And crucially, the wood contains natural tannins that actively repel bugs and insects.
Which, as you can imagine, is vital when you are storing objects for centuries. But the structural genius goes even deeper when you consider the climate.
Because Japan's climate is pretty extreme, right?
Very extreme. Japan has notoriously oppressive, humid summers and very, very dry winters. And if you seal organic material, like certain types of clay or glaze, in a rigid, non-porous container, well, you are asking for trouble.
Reading through these botanical breakdowns, it finally clicked for me. This isn't just a protective box.
No, not at all.
Because of how the paulownia wood physically responds to humidity, it's essentially acting as a natively built, organic, smart climate control system. It's like a living humidor.
A living humidor is the perfect way to describe it. The cellular structure of paulownia reacts dynamically to its environment. So during a sweltering, humid Kyoto summer, the wood literally expands.
Wow.
Yeah, and this expansion naturally swells the joints and the lid, which creates an airtight moisture barrier that keeps all that oppressive humidity out.
And then in the winter?
In the drier winter months, the wood contracts just enough to allow a gentle, microscopic circulation of air. So it actively prevents mold from blooming in the summer and stops the clay from becoming overly brittle in the winter.
And it only achieves that seal because the lids themselves are highly engineered, right? It isn't just a flat board resting on top.
Oh no, the joinery is incredible.
Yeah, the texts outline a few different grades of lids. You have the kabusvita, which operates basically like your standard shoebox lid. An overlapping cover for everyday items.
Right, the basic level.
Then you step up to the shihosan, which utilizes 4 wooden cross pieces affixed to the underside of the lid to hold it perfectly square and secure on the inner rim. But the absolute pinnacle of this engineering is the inner Buddha.
The inner beetle is just a marvel. It features an inner wooden lip that meshes into the base of the box like a precision puzzle piece.
Almost like a suction effect?
Exactly. The friction fit is so perfect that when you slide the lid down, you can almost feel a cushion of air being pushed out. It creates the most airtight seal possible and is generally reserved for the most prestigious pieces, like master-crafted tea bowls that have been passed down through generations.
I have to push back on how we handle art today, though. Hearing all this, it really feels like we've regressed.
How do you mean?
Well, we take a gorgeous, handcrafted piece of pottery, something born from the earth, and we just suffocate it in layers of tight plastic bubble wrap.
Oh, yes.
If we chuck that into a storage unit for 5 years, doesn't that modern reliance on non-porous plastic actually do a disservice to the pottery? Like we're entirely preventing the clay from breathing.
Trapping a ceramic piece in plastic for extended periods is a massive risk.
I knew it.
Yeah, even fired clay has a subtle relationship with the atmosphere. Wrapping it tightly in non-porous material can trap residual ambient moisture. And over the years, that can lead to mold, the degradation of certain delicate glazes, or even microfissures.
That's wild.
The Japanese artisans understood centuries ago that the art needs to breathe, but it needs to breathe on its own terms, buffered from extreme swings in the environment.
Because the paulownia wood solves the problem of nature. The climate, the humidity, the insects. But the engineering inside the box is equally intense. And it seems aimed at solving the physical environment and human interference.
Yes, the inner layers.
Right. Before the pottery ever even touches the inside of that wood, it is wrapped in a specialized cloth called Ukon nuno.
The Ukon nuno is a very fine, brightly colored cotton cloth, and Ukon actually translates to turmeric.
Like the spice.
Exactly like the spice. Traditionally, this cloth was dyed an intense, vibrant yellow using the crushed root of the turmeric plant.
Which again isn't just an aesthetic choice to make the pottery pop against the yellow background. The active chemical compound in turmeric is curcumin. And curcumin is a powerful natural antimicrobial agent and a heavy-duty insect repellent.
Right, so it creates a secondary barrier. You have a bug-repellent wooden box lined with a bug-repellent antimicrobial cloth.
It's basically an impenetrable fortress.
It really is. And the physical act of wrapping the bowl in this cloth is a ritual in itself. The piece isn't just casually tossed inside.
No, the folding is very specific, though.
Very. You place the bowl dead center on the square cloth, fold 3 corners over tightly to secure the shape, and then the final 4th corner is folded so it lays elegantly right across the top.
And from the photos in our sources, that final top corner almost always bears the artist's personal ink stamp.
Exactly.
So when you open the box, the artist's logo is resting perfectly face up to greet you.
Every detail is deliberate. Once the bowl is wrapped in the Ukon nuno and placed securely inside the Kiribako, the lid goes on and the entire structure must be locked down.
Which brings us to the cord.
Yes. This brings us to a really fascinating piece of martial history, the Sanada-himo.
The Sanada-himo. This is the flat, tightly woven cord used to tie the box closed. And the history here is just incredible. The name comes from the Sanada samurai clan dating back to the 16th century, right in the middle of Japan's Sengoku period, the age of warring states.
During that era, samurai armor was incredibly complex. It was composed of hundreds of small, lacquered iron plates that needed to be laced together.
And they couldn't just use normal silk for that, could they?
No, standard silk cords were beautiful, but in the heat of battle, mixed with rain, sweat, and blood, silk would stretch, slip, or snap. So the Sanada clan developed a specialized method of weaving cotton flat.
Right, because it was a flat, tight weave, it had virtually no stretch and extremely high friction.
Exactly. Once you tied a knot with it, it did not move. Samurai used it to bind their armor, and they actually wrapped the grips of their katanas with it so the weapon wouldn't slip out of their hands in the middle of a fight.
So it was a rugged, highly functional tool built specifically for the violence and bloodshed of war.
Which highlights the profound irony of how it is used today.
How so?
Well, the legendary 16th century tea master Sen no Rikyu was a central figure in defining the aesthetics and spirituality of the Japanese tea ceremony. And that is a practice centered entirely on peace, harmony, and Zen mindfulness.
Total opposite of war.
Exactly. Yet Sen no Rikyu took this martial tool designed for the battlefield and brought it into the quiet sanctuary of the tea room. He recognized its unparalleled strength and began using these armor cords to tie the precious Kiribako boxes closed.
And over time, it evolved into something far beyond just a strong knot. The sources describe how this cord became known as yakusoku-himo, or the promise string.
The promise string, yes.
Because as the tea ceremony grew in prestige among the elite and the warlords, the pottery itself became incredibly valuable. And, well, where there's value, there are forgers.
Forgery was a massive problem. To combat this, different pottery families, tea masters, and appraisal schools started developing their own highly guarded, top-secret color combinations and weaving patterns for their Sanada-himo cords.
It literally became an anti-counterfeit cipher.
It was a visual code. If you were presented with a famous tea bowl and you saw a specific pattern of alternating deep green and white stripes on the flat cord, you knew instantly which appraisal school had authenticated that bowl.
So if a forged bowl showed up tied with the wrong color cord,
or even a poorly woven imitation, the fraud was immediately exposed before the box was even opened.
that is brilliant. The cord is the first line of defense. But the ultimate authentication, the mechanism that actually drives the financial value of the pottery through the roof, is written directly onto the porous wood of the box itself.
Right, the Hakogaki.
A Hakogaki, which simply means box writing.
When the original artist who shaped and fired the pottery takes a brush and signs the box themselves, that Kiribako officially elevates to the status of a Tomobako.
And tomo means accompanying, right?
Yes, it is the accompanying box, permanently linked to the soul of the piece inside.
And the layout of this calligraphy is strictly defined. It's done in black sumi ink. On the right side of the wooden lid, the artist paints the item description.
Like the style or shape.
Right. If you are a modern potter making ao orib, which is that striking, vibrant green and blue copper glazed pottery, the box might simply read AO for blue, followed by the shape of the vessel. And then on the left side, you have the artist's name and their red seal, the hanko.
But the ink itself is crucial here. Sumi ink bleeds deeply into the grain of the paulownia wood. You can't just wipe it off.
So if someone tries to erase it,
If a forger tries to sand the signature away, it leaves a very obvious physical divot in the wood.
so the wood literally absorbs the identity of the artist. But forgers are clever, right?
Yeah.
They would often try to take a genuine signed lid and just place it onto a box containing a fake lesser bowl.
They absolutely would.
Reading through the translation of these historical authentication methods, the solution to that completely blew my mind. They use something called a warian, or a split seal.
The split seal is fascinating.
If I'm understanding the mechanics of this correctly, the artist takes a red stamp, maybe a traditional geometric pattern like the Seven Treasures, and they stamp it exactly over the horizontal seam where the lid meets the body of the box.
That is the exact mechanism. Half of the intricate red ink lines dry on the lid, and the other half dry on the box base.
So it's basically a puzzle.
A unique puzzle. Because the grain and the microscopic alignment of every single box are unique, if a forger tries to swap that genuine lid onto a different box, the intricate lines of the stamp will never align perfectly. The split seal is broken.
It is brilliant in its simplicity. And the financial impact of this wooden ledger is staggering. The modern auction records in our sources point out that pieces by mid-century master artists like Kijishiro Zenjin routinely sell for more than double the price if they are accompanied by their genuine original Tomobako.
How easily double.
You could have two identical bowls pulled from the exact same kiln firing, completely indistinguishable in their physical beauty, and the one resting in its signed box is worth twice as much on the market.
Because the bowl holds the aesthetic value, but the box holds the historical value. The box proves its provenance. And what is truly fascinating is how that history can compound over time through the practice of nested boxes.
Nested boxes, like Russian nesting dolls, but for priceless ceramics.
Exactly like that.
There is a famous Edo period earthenware tea bowl detailed in the sources known as Sennin-yu, which translates to friend of 1,000 years. Can you walk us through the journey of a bowl like that?
The friend of 1,000 years perfectly illustrates this compounding value. Over the centuries, as this specific bowl passed from owner to owner among the Japanese elite, it accumulated boxes.
Like they just kept adding them.
Yes. A renowned tea master might appraise the bowl and write a beautiful inscription or poem on a newly commissioned box, and this makes it a kakitsukebako. Generations later, a formal appraiser might authenticate that master's box and add another box around it, known as a kiwami-bako.
So you end up with this small, humble tea bowl sitting at the center of a massive, heavy cube of 4 or 5 layers of intricately signed wooden boxes.
That's exactly what happens.
Every time ownership changes hands among the highest tiers of society, a new box is added, literally nesting the previous centuries of history inside.
Opening a piece like that is an overwhelming sensory experience. You are untying cords and sliding off lids, authenticated by masters in the 1600s, then the 1750s, then the 1820s. You actually feel the compounding weight of history before you ever lay eyes on the clay.
Looking at this entire system, I really can't help but draw a sharp contrast with Western art. In the West, authenticity is intrinsically tied to the canvas itself, right? The painter signs the bottom right corner of the painting. The sculptor carves their name into the marble base.
Right, the object itself carries the signature.
But in Japanese ceramics, the signature, the authentication, isn't plastered on the side of the bowl. It's on the box. It acts almost like a physical blockchain ledger.
Oh, that's an interesting way to put it.
It is a highly transparent, immutable record, tracking the provenance, the appraisals, and the chain of custody of that item through the centuries, all verified by split seals and encrypted signature codes.
A physical, decentralized ledger is a very apt analogy. The box is the ledger of the object's soul. But, understanding this rich history brings us to a very practical application for today.
Right. How does a modern studio potter, perhaps an artist listening to us right now, throwing clay in a small local studio, how do they translate these ancient rituals to elevate their contemporary work?
Well, we have to start by looking at the intense realities of modern shipping.
Let's look at the logistics of a top-tier modern potter like Florian Gadsby. The essays outline how getting a fragile pot from a studio in London to a buyer in Tokyo is basically a masterclass in survival.
It really is.
Gadsby uses strict double boxing. The pot is suspended in layers of custom-cut foam, wrapped in stiff paper bubble wrap, placed in an inner box, which is then suspended inside an outer box, heavily reinforced with water-adhesive tape.
You have to.
He fills every conceivable void with biodegradable starch-packing peanuts, pressing them down until the box is literally bursting. The golden rule of modern shipping is no rattling, because if it rattles, it breaks.
And that level of armor is absolutely necessary to survive the automated violence of the modern postal system. But a critical mistake modern artists make is confusing that utilitarian transit packaging with the presentation of the art itself.
They're two different things.
Exactly. Modern potters can and should utilize both. The brutalist transit box protects the piece from the conveyor belts and the mail carrier. But the presentation box, the Kiribako inside, protects the piece for eternity.
Imagine a potter finishing a piece in their garage today. Let's say they specialize in kusamono, those shallow, earthy vessels designed specifically to hold living wild grasses or moss.
Beautiful pieces.
Instead of just wrapping that finished bowl in plastic and calling it a day, they commission a custom paulownia Kiribako. And to really honor the piece, they request the Buddha style, giving the buyer that incredibly satisfying airtight friction fit when they close the lid.
Once they have the box, the artist engages in the Hakogaki. They take sumi ink and hand paint the title of the piece on the top right of the lid. They sign their name on the left, press their personal red Hanko stamp into the wood, and carefully apply the Warien split seal over the seam.
They're physically binding their identity to that specific box.
Yes.
Then comes the inner layer. They take their unplanted kusamono vessel and wrap it in the bright yellow turmeric Ukon cloth. They fold it mindfully, turning a chore into a ritual, making sure that final corner bearing their stamped logo rests face up.
And then they build their brand identity through the Sanada-himo. They don't just buy a generic ribbon, They choose a specific color combination that represents their work.
So if their focus is nature themes, like kusamono.
Right, perhaps they select a deep forest green interwoven with natural white cotton. This becomes their unique yakusoku-himo, their promise string. Every single piece that leaves their studio is bound by this unyielding cord, creating immediate visual recognition for their collectors.
Finally, they can add a brilliant modern touch to bridge the cultural gap. Master potter Ewan Craig details this in his essays.
Yes, the bilingual guide.
Exactly. If you send a beautifully wrapped Kiribako to a buyer in New York or London, they might be intimidated or they just might not know how to care for it. So you place a short, elegant resume and care guide printed on fine textured washi paper right inside the bowl.
It's a great touch.
You have Japanese on one side, English on the other, explain the title of the piece, the specific clay body used, and how to properly wash it.
This is the crucial takeaway for any contemporary artist. Adopting these practices is not some cynical marketing ploy designed merely to justify a higher price tag.
No, not at all.
It is a genuine continuation of Tsutsumi. It demonstrates a profound respect for the raw clay you dug from the earth, the intense fire that forged it, and the ultimate recipient who has chosen to bring your art into their home. You are transforming a simple commercial transaction into a deeply emotional, tactile unboxing experience.
You are giving the buyer a moment of reverence. You're asking them to physically slow down, feel the friction of the samurai cord as they untie it, slide off that precision wooden lid, and unfold the bright yellow cloth.
It completely reframes how we interact with the objects we bring into our lives.
I want you, the listener, to reflect on that for a second. Think about how you present your own work to the world. Whether you are a ceramic artist, or you're delivering a major professional project to a client, or even just handing a simple, thoughtful gift to a friend.
Right.
Is the packaging of your effort an afterthought? Or is it an integral, respected part of the experience? Are you practicing Stuttsumi, or are you just packing peanuts at the problem?
Viewing our daily interactions through that lens can really elevate the mundane into something quite special.
I want to leave you with one final provocative thought regarding all these sources. We've spent this entire deep dive talking about how the Kiribako, the cloth, and the cord protect the pottery. But think about the physical nature of the materials. The ceramic piece itself, born of earth and fired in a kiln at thousands of degrees, is essentially immortal. Unless it is dropped on a hard floor, that fired clay bowl will survive for millennia.
It will outlast us all.
But the paulownia wood box, the delicate washi paper, the yellow cotton cloth, these are highly fragile organic materials. They are inevitably destined to decay. Over enough centuries, they will rot, they will burn, they will fade into dust.
That's very true.
So is this elaborate, beautiful packaging actually a philosophical reminder? Is it a way of forcing us as collectors and appreciators to confront the temporary, fragile nature of our own lives? The bowl will undoubtedly outlast us all, but the decaying box reminds us that our ownership of it is entirely fleeting.